Hello everybody, the duck is back. Look at him go. There are like a billion other plushies I could use, but I feel like he gets me, you know? My hair is not fucking cooperating today. I tried to use this fancy fucking conditioner and it was like, how would you like to have one curl right here at the top all day long? Do you want to look like a fucking tool? Because I can do that for you. I'm going back to herbal essences, guys. Today's thing of interest is gender identity, which, what a fucking shocker. Specifically though, I want to talk about the absence of gender identity and what that does to a fucking person. Because man, even though we think of gender identity as this innate thing that doesn't change, I feel like it's more complicated than that, because in order to have an identity, you have to identify with something. And if you don't identify with anything, do you really have a gender identity? I remember being in high school and laying in bed and thinking, man, I really don't relate with masculinity. In fact, I hate men. I'm so freaking cool. I am such a cool guy because I don't like masculinity. Wow. What a fucking idiot. But my failure to relate to masculinity didn't mean that I instantly embraced femininity. I didn't realize it until recently, but having a gender identity is super important to like your psychological well-being and personal development. Even after I'd started transitioning, I thought of gender identity as just like an aspect of a person. Your gender identity doesn't determine very much. It's kind of like an aesthetic. It's like a paint job for your emotions, you know? So I finally got the idea out of my head that transitioning is just an aesthetic thing to make you a little more comfortable. But where did I get that idea in my head in the first place? I will give you 5 ooh-woo head pats if you can guess. It was Blaire White, or as I like to call her, the B word. I have a weird feeling I'm not the first person to do that. If there's anything bouncing around in your brain that you think you know about being trans that you learned from Blaire White, get rid of it. Get it out. Fucking turn your head sideways, shake it out, get it out. It's all garbage. She's an idiot, it's garbage. I used to subscribe to the belief that, well, even if she's wrong about some things, she's at least making trans people look palatable to conservatives, but the damage she is doing alongside that is immeasurable. I mean, it is to the point where she is setting back trans rights by a decade for every year that she continues to draw breath. And that is because she conditions people to deny their identity. Aside from being a trans medicalist, which is bad in and of itself, she tells the people that she sees as real trans that HRT isn't going to make you a new person, it's not going to make you so much happier, it's just going to make you a little more comfortable, which is fucking stupid. Blaire, I understand that you have a hard time understanding complicated things, but you need to not make that other people's problem. I would have started transition so much earlier if I had actually believed what people were telling me about how transitioning makes you feel just different and more valuable and more important and just happier across the board. But because I was a liquid-brained conservative, I only got my trans takes from Blaire White, and Blaire White said transition is pretty much just a cool aesthetic thing. Maybe she's different now, but I honestly don't want to engage in the act of self-harm that would be finding out. So enough blaming her. I'm a very forgiving person, so I'm gonna stop. I can stop anytime. I mean, really though, she's like human asbestos. You breathe her in and you don't realize what you did wrong until like 5 years later when you finally got mesothelioma and you're entitled to financial compensation, except in this situation, there is no financial compensation. You just lost a year of your life to being a fucking idiot who refused to start transition. You played yourself, dumbass. So of course, going in expecting almost nothing from transition, I was very surprised to find that I definitely feel like a whole new person. It's just so clear looking back on myself what was missing and what I have now and how much happier it makes me. Suddenly I'm this cool new person who's worth doing things for. I've started like taking care of myself in ways I never would have before. Like for the first time ever, I'm actually afraid to die. I know that's a little bit morbid, but what can you do? It's better now. So that's cool. I'm epic and healthy now. But what was I like before I was epic and healthy? But mostly epic. Because remember, we're not here to talk about how happy I am, we're here to talk about how much it fucking sucked to not be happy. Because the people love a tragedy. And I love lemonade Gatorade. It's good shit. That void where gender identity is supposed to go will usually fill up with something. So my 3 preferred substitutes for gender identity were God, fringe politics, and my high school girlfriend. Which Wow. I had a phase in about the 8th grade where I refused to say the word my, or to imply possession over anything, because all things belong to God. What the fuck? What the fuck? I was literally trying to convert people in grade school. It was a bad time, but it got worse, because high school came, and I replaced God with a girl, and I treated that girl like she was God. It was pretty much just 3 years of constant emotional abuse that I put up with because my only sense of self-worth was being attached to her. I got all of my self-respect and validation from being in that relationship. My relationship with her was what was filling that gap where gender identity was supposed to go. And I couldn't do anything about it because shit, that's a load-bearing relationship. You take that down, the whole thing's coming down with it. And sure as hell, it all came down eventually. In a very rare act of self-respect, I actually ghosted her after high school, but the timing was really fucking bad because, again, that hole in my psyche was there and it needed to be filled, and it was 2015 and we all know where this is going. You need to back the fuck off. Sorry, I was peeking it. I was but a lost soul, bindle slung over my shoulder when the Trump train pulled into town. With nowhere else to go, I simply crawled aboard and waited for it to take me wherever it was going. I'm not trying to justify my actions for having been such a huge fucking piece of shit, but at that point in my life, it's like I was working at a truck stop. And my job was to clean the showers, and there were times where I would just mentally break to the point where I was laying on the dirty shower floor. Sometimes there was literally cum on the wall, just fucking cum right there. And I'm laying on the floor crying because there's nothing left. Can I pin this all on not having a gender identity? Yes. Yes, I actually can. My dysphoria was so strong and unresolved, and my sense of self was so fucking diminished that I just didn't know what to do. And I wasn't even aware of what the problem was, because I was so in denial from being a fucking hardline conservative. I actually tried to join the army fucking twice, because I don't know, I just needed a 4th identity substitute. I ended up not going. I actually, God, this is fucking stupid. I ended up pussying out of going to the army the day before I was supposed to ship because I stayed up all night watching Game Grumps, and there was this episode, I think it was the Wind Waker playthrough, and there was this episode where Dan started talking about how you have to go through this kind of shitty period in your life as a creator before you can move on and start making things you're actually proud of and gain traction and stuff. And I fucking hate Game Grumps now, and I think they're total fucking frauds, but he did have a point, and he swayed me enough on the night before I was supposed to ship to where I was like, no, I'm not going. I'm gonna be a Let's Player. So I didn't go, and I became a Let's Player. And I sucked, and I still suck, and I still make Let's Plays, by the way. Link in the description. God, this is a weird time to fucking plug that. So conservatism pretty much ground my bones to dust. But once I finally escaped, I started to really realize who I am. And over time, I started to fill in that gap with what was supposed to be there all along. I bought myself new clothes, I commissioned femme profile pictures, and I just gave myself room to grow and accepted that I might not know everything and that I deserve a chance to figure it out. And thanks to HRT and thanks to transitioning in general, I'm just finally happy. Like, this part of me that I didn't even know was missing is just fucking there, and I just fucking, it makes me so happy that it sounds like hyperbole. Part of the reason I didn't take trans people seriously when they talked about HRT like I'm talking about it now is because it just seems too good to be true. When you hate yourself that much, it is so hard to believe that there's something out there that can actually make it better. So for the first time ever, I kind of feel like I made it. And also for the first time ever, I feel like I'm just getting started, and I actually have things to look forward to. Okay, so I kind of had a moment there and forgot where I was, but HRT doesn't fix everything by itself, but transitioning fixes a lot. It helps in ways that I don't think you even know are there until you start doing it. So to say any more would probably sound a little bit hyperbolic. So I'll just leave it at this. Exploring your identity is worth it, and if you're trans, transitioning is fucking worth it. It is not an aesthetic thing, it doesn't just make you a little more comfortable, it is a chance to give yourself the self-respect that you probably haven't been and that you definitely deserve. I'm sorry, by the way, that this video feels a little bit binary. If you're non-binary and gender exploration has been different for you than I've described, then I would certainly love to hear it, because I am just a simple, generic online trans lesbian communist anarchist. I'm actually neither of those last two things, but I mean, come on, the statistical probability is there. I really gotta stop talking. I've done way too much talking. Bye! Duck.